I need to warm up a little bit. I maybe should have kept my coffee inside to keep it warmer, but it is chilly. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 225 of the Love in Stitches podcast. How gorgeous is this behind me? Wait, I'm gonna make sure this stays up a little bit. It is pretty cold out here this morning. Oh, by the way, welcome to Escalante, Utah. This is my first time in Utah as well as Toasters, so it's a brand new state for us, which is really exciting. It's also just about 7 o'clock in the morning, so what you can see behind me is actually the sunrise coming from the other way, and it's so pretty, isn't it? I just can't stop staring. So hopefully I've nailed just the right light this morning. I've got all my projects here around me, and I am so excited to share with you what I have been able to get done this week. It feels like very much a week where I have just been completing things and ticking things off my list, which means next week I can finally get into some new projects or return to some things that I have been wanting to do. But before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to our returning podcast sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for growing your business online. Squarespace makes it super easy to create a beautiful website, sell digital and physical products, and share your creative ideas with your audience. I'll be sharing more about how I use Squarespace later on in the video, but for now, let's get right into it. Just to start, I am wearing a couple of recently finished projects. So my hat, my scarf, and my gloves are all part of a set that I have been wanting to make for years. I wanted to have a matching set of gloves, scarf, and hat that I can wear together so that I look put together, but in hand knits. So the gloves actually are not hand knit. They're the first thing that I got. So at Rhinebeck this past year, I went to the, oh man, I didn't bring out my thing. American Made Alpaca, the American Made Alpaca booth at Rhinebeck. And it was so cold on Sunday and I didn't have any gloves. So I bought these gloves and then I bought a few skeins. I got 3 skeins in total of the same color alpaca yarn in fawn to make a scarf and a hat. So you've seen all the things that I've gone through with this Musselburgh hat last podcast. I finally shared that I've got it all right. So I'm updating the notes on this one. So this hat has stockinette on one side and rib on the other brim, but I do like wearing it the stockinette way. So I'll probably wear it this way most of the time, which is like very silly. I should have just made it this way, but I like that I can flip it back and forth. And then this is the Traveler's Loop by Dawn Barker. I'm not going to go too into these projects because I've talked about them like ad nauseum, but I will link them down below and they are keeping me nice and warm today. I can't because I've got gloves on. I can't scroll on my phone right now, but I think it's in the low 40s or high 30s right now. And I never put on my outer jacket when I record these videos because it's that material that makes a noise that the microphone can pick up. So I'm like, all right, let's get out here. Let's stay warm. Actually, when I show you my blanket today, I'm going to keep it on my lap and keep myself nice and toasty. Okay, so now into projects. So I shared just a second ago that I got organized this week, and mostly I've just been kind of like moving along, like staying very focused on one project and getting it finished. I have a couple of finishes. Well, I have one finish and one like two almost finishes, we'll call them, for this week. But I also did some organization. So my cabinet that I keep all of my whips in, every few weeks, it really just needs everything to be pulled out, reorganized, and reset. So I did that this week, just a couple nights ago. So here's what it looked like before. I shared on Instagram that I was going to be, organizing it. So I just grabbed it from there because I forgot to record an actual video on my phone. It looks, you can tell it's kind of like stuffed in there. Here's the after. You probably can't tell too much how different it is because it's still just a bunch of project bags in there, but I know, I know how different it is. I actually pulled out several project bags to send home that I had been, I've used a few times, and now I have new project bags. So I want to use the new project bags, and I just don't have space to hold all of them. So I sent a couple project bags home, as well as some extra yarn that I've been using up in my blanket. I pulled out a lot of stuff in there that I know I'm not going to use. Some of it I just were prizes already, like intended for prizes, and they had just been stored in the wrong place. So I put them back in their proper place. Some things, like I had a ton of scraps. I have like a whole, not quite a gallon size Ziploc bag of scraps. And this one was really hard for me because I wanted to keep them a little bit. Like my brain was telling me like, this is yarn that you used and like you can use again and like you should keep it and do a scrappy project with it. So that was like one part of my brain. And then another part of me was saying, am I really in the place right now to start a scrappy project? And by this, I mean like a project, maybe a blanket, probably a blanket, where whenever I have leftovers, I incorporate it into that project so that I'm just not leaving a lot of leftovers out. Because at my parents' house, I do have some leftovers, but they're more like 20-gram balls. I cleared out so many of those in 2023, all of my scraps and minis and things. And so I was just like, you know what, Natalie, it doesn't make sense right now to hang on to all of these scraps. Like, scraps are inevitable. There will be more. These can be shared. They don't need to be taking up space in the van. You don't need to send them home and then build them up and have to deal with them later. I would much rather, when I am finished with this trip or whenever I'm in the place again to start a scrappy project, just be like, start it then when I'm excited about it and like add things in then. I don't know. Does that make sense? That's where my logic kind of went. So I ended up posting it on our membership D-Stash channel on Discord, and somebody claimed them right away, as well as some cotton yarns that I had kind of bought on a whim, even though I kind of knew in the back of my mind I wasn't going to use them. And so I was able to share that with somebody as well. So several things out of the stash or out of my whip cabinet and off to people who are going to actually use them. And then everything else I just got cleaned and refreshed. I, switched around project bags, switched around stitch markers. That always feels good and makes me excited to work on a project again if I haven't been. Okay, so now let's get into what I've been working on. So I do have a fully finished object, well, except for blocking. Tonight we are going to a campsite with water and hookups and everything. So we've been, reserving our water. I haven't done any blocking this week. So aside from blocking, these are finished. Yay! Okay, so these are one of my Vanilla is the New Black socks by Anae Fletcher. And this is in the Knitty Natty colorway. And it's not going to show as bright or like as colorful as it is just because there's a lot of light behind me today. But this is the colorway that Lori of Arkansas Yarn Co. created for me when I was there when we did the yarn store tour. And it's to represent their tea. I actually found a sample packet. I bought the full thing of the Plum Deluxe tea. That's their tea, the rose tea. And then I found a sample packet the other night because I'm like completely out now of decaffeinated tea or caffeine-free tea, which I like to have every night. So I need to find some, but I found it. I didn't know I had it, and I had some again. It's so good. The tea is so good. If you can get some from Arkansas Yarn Co., I'll highly recommend. What's special about these? Okay, so I changed up the pattern just a little bit. I did fewer stitches. I did 56 stitches instead of 60, and I did update my project notes. I have been horrible at that lately. In the past few weeks, especially because we've been going in and out of places where we have service. So I think when I started these socks, I started them on a notes page on my phone because I couldn't get onto Ravelry to add my notes. So I finally transferred everything over, consolidated it, cleaned it up since these are done. So fewer stitches. I also did rib all along the leg. Now you can see here how the rib, because I continued the rib like for the heel, which is what you're supposed to do, and I kept it on the instep, it does look a little funny. So I think the next time I do a ribbed top, I might start stockinette where the heel starts. So here's where the heel is. So I would start the stockinette here. I think that would look a little bit better. So keep the stockinette on the top of the foot and, keep the rib on the heel. And then the other thing about these socks is for some reason, I did like half an inch too little for the foot on the first sock. So the first sock was already done, ends woven in, everything. And as I went to do the second sock, I just kept looking at the first one like, looks so small. I tried it on, I could wear it, but it wasn't super comfortable. Like it was making my foot feel scrunched. So when I completed the second sock, I added 4 more rows. I think I did 48 rows after the heel before I did the toe. And then on the first sock, I needed to then match that. So I went back and I pulled back the toe, added in 4 more rows, re-knit the toe, and now they're matching. So you can kind of tell. So this actual skein that I'm using, I dyed when I was there. So there's a more significant difference, I would say, than when Lori is dyeing them because she's a professional. This one's a little darker, this one's a little lighter. And then the toe of this one's a little lighter because I used yarn from this part of the skein. But unless I tell you, I don't think you can notice it too badly. But anyway, I'm happy these are done. I'm hoping to get them blocked tonight. And then I can start wearing them because I've been getting lots of questions about how I like wearing this strong heel. And I don't know yet because I haven't had the chance to wear them. So after these dry later this week, I will for sure be wearing them and I will keep you posted on how I like them. I need to warm up a little bit. I maybe should have kept my coffee inside to keep it warmer, but it is chilly. Okay. In a similar vein, I have sort of finished another pair of socks. Let me get those out. Okay. How cute. I'm trying to make sure my stuff doesn't fall all the way in the dirt. How cute is this bag? It's got all the national parks printed on the fabric. And we are actually between national parks right now. We're doing a ton of them in Utah. We just went to Bryce yesterday. We're going to Capitol Reef tomorrow. Anyway, so fun. My friend Nicole gave this to me. Thank you, Nicole. I also put this on here, which my friend Julie made. I don't know if you can read it. It says Camp National Park, and then there's space if you have like a wet erase marker. You can put your, write your name or whatever for your project on there, which is so cute. So of course in here I have my Greatest Yarny Adventure socks because I have been exclusively working on these when we've been doing an adventure, maybe a national park, or it may be taking a walk, or it may be a monument or something like that. But for the most part, working on these only when we are on an adventure. And now I'm seeing that my other sock is not in here. Where is it? Well, it's somewhere in the car. I'm not going to fuss with it. You'll just have to, oh, my stomach just growled. I haven't had breakfast yet. You'll just have to go with it for me. So I have completed both of these socks. Just believe me. Hold on here. Let's get my hand free and available so you can actually see. Yay, there we go. Isn't this so pretty? So this yarn is from Woolen Women Fibers, and it was a collaboration between the two of us for one of their boxes that they do. They do a box every single month that you can subscribe to, and you go to a different place. So sometimes it's a real place, like we kind of did, like generally the outdoors, or sometimes it's a fantasy place, like for May it's Camelot. So very, very fun. But anyway, this one was finished a while ago. I finished the other one. I think I did about this much, most of the foot. But just like the sock I just showed you, I think I did way too few rows on this first sock. So I am going to be taking back the toe. I'm going to be going back in, picking up my stitches, ripping it back, re-knitting it. And this time I figured, why don't I record a tutorial? Because I can't be the only one who makes a sock or makes a sleeve or makes a sweater or something that is too short, and you need to go back and you need to add on rows and re-knit something. So I'm going to be holding on to this to create a tutorial coming in a few weeks. So if that's something that you think you might need, stay tuned for that. But that's pretty much all to say about those socks. Next week, I'll show them again and they will be finished, and because we're going to have water soon, hopefully blocked. The shadow that you're starting to see right here is the van, because the van is on the other side of the camera. That's really funny. Very cool. Okay, noted. If I want to get golden-y hour, not too bright sunlight, I'll have to start like 30 minutes before the sun rises, or the sunrise time, because it's confusing. I try to use my weather app on the phone, on my iPhone. It's pretty accurate about when the sun is going to like rise or when rain is going to come or whatever. But technically, I think sunrise means like the sun comes over the horizon, not like it starts to get light outside, which is a lesson I continue to learn as I film these outside every single week. Not to worry. I think it still looks all right. Okay. I needed to start a new hiking project since I finished up my Greatest Yarny Adventure socks. Now, eventually I'm planning to make a yarn cozy with the Greatest Yarny Adventure yarn, but since I'm not done with the Greatest Yarny Adventure socks, technically I need to rip that second sock back a little ways and reknit the toe. I decided I would start a yarn cozy with my Knitty Natty yarn because I also want something aside from socks that I can use often and remember the special yarn that we created. So I started one of my yarn cozy light patterns. So this is the 100-gram size. This is the knitted version. There is a crocheted version, but this is a great project, very portable for on the go. Once you get it started and you get through the increases, you're just working in a very simple pattern. Hang on, I can't focus the camera without. There we go. You're just in a very simple pattern. There's a couple different things you can do. You can use self-striping yarn, you can do these little mock cables, or you can just do a simple rib like I'm doing here. I actually really like this project for going to the movies as well. Again, get through the increases before you go, and then you can just work round and round. And if you can keep track of a rib pattern in your head, then you can do that like in the dark. It's perfect, and it's like just the right amount of knitting. For the smaller ones. The 100-gram ones definitely take me longer than one movie, but it depends on how fast you knit. So anyway, so this is going to be a great project. This is definitely getting into the lighter side of my Knitty Natty yarn. So this one's probably going to be more light colored, more bare yarn left. And again, it's because I dyed this skein of yarn, so the whole skein didn't get dyed super evenly. But I'm still really proud of it, and I still want to commemorate it. So I love these yarn cozies. Not only are they really like functional as a yarn cozy when you're using a center pull cake, but also they're just a fun way to have an item that is something you reach for often, and you can like really see that spectacular yarn that you love so much. So this project won't be probably getting done very fast. We are going to a few more national parks, like I said, so it's a great project for while we're driving around sightseeing or walking around sightseeing. So I will be keeping this in here ready to just grab. The straps around my waist. I can easily knit from it whenever I need it. Last project. Check this out. Notice how this is in a bag? Or mostly, it can't actually fit in a bag. That is because there is no more yarn in this project bag because I have officially caught up on my Hexie Blanket. I think no one is more excited than I am, except maybe those of you who are tired of seeing this project as the main focus every single week. I have been putting the majority of my like knitting and crochet time into this blanket for a while now. Back in the end of January, I went to Yarny Gras in New Orleans and got a bunch of yarn that I couldn't wind for a while. And that really started this whole process of me being very behind and having so much yarn everywhere in the van that I needed to add into this blanket. Sometimes I was stuck because I just had so many yarns to add in. Sometimes it was because I couldn't get them wound. And then it was like one thing after the other once I finally started to catch up. In March, I guess, gosh, it was a long time. March, I then went to 2 yarn crawls in a row. Anyway, I'm caught up now and I'm so thrilled. Like, I just can't even tell you. It feels so good. I'm mostly excited that, well, okay, 2 things I'm really excited for. One, I don't have yarn now out of my like overhead bin project space. Everything is in there. Everything except for prizes, which is fine. And then 2, oh wait, how do I not have yarn? Because when I use a skein of yarn for this, because it doesn't use the whole thing, I put it in a Ziploc bag. When 6 are in a Ziploc bag, I mail them to my parents' house. So it's all still with me somehow, but not actually like physically with us in the van. So that's great. And then the other thing is I can now move on to another blanket project that I've been wanting to get back to, which is the Blanket of Knowledge from Hot Springs Fiber Co. It's a subscription. And I barely started on it. I actually realized I started it wrong. And so I've been itching to start it again because I'm doing the crochet version and I'm learning a lot of new crochet stitches with that blanket. And I just haven't had the mental capacity to restart it again because I've been trying to get caught up on this and finish off socks. And so I've got almost two pairs of socks finished now, and this blanket caught up. I'm like free to do what I want now with my projects, which feels so good. Okay, so last week I had finished the 6-ring around. I think it was 127 hexies total. So I've started on the 7th ring. Oh, looks like a toaster whisker there in the blanket. So let me see if I can get back to it. I added in 9 hexies. Did I already say that? I added in 9 hexies this week, most of which were from California, still getting those caught up from the Bay Area yarn crawl. 1 from Arizona, because we did film an Arizona yarn store tour this week, and then 2 from Mississippi. Those were shipped to me, sent to me as a gift from Wool Market Fibers in Mississippi, which was fun because I only had 1 Mississippi yarn in the blanket in total. So even though we didn't technically travel to Mississippi after Arizona, it was still nice to add those into the blanket. Okay, so let's see. Oh, stay there, phone. Okay, phone's gonna stay there. So I think, well, actually it was easier to tell when, oh yeah, no, you can tell. So see how we've got this like happy orangey yellow and this orangey one and this one, and then it like steps up. This one is the start of the 7th ring. So I put in here my bookmarker, which I really like, as an indicator to the start. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I just caught up last night. So, I'm so excited. Okay, so the ones that I have worked through this week, this one here is from, what was the name of the yarn company? Wool & Works. They're out of Australia, and it is called Pacific Coast Highway 1. Oh, wow, I can't see it at all. 2 backlit. Hold on, if I scoot more forward, can you see it a little better? Yes, I think so. Boop. A little bit. A little washed out. But trust me, it's so pretty, it's so bright, and it's so beautiful, and I got it on the Bay Area yarn crawl. So that was a crawl colorway. So is this one. This one I got at Dharma Trading Co. And this is from Totally Rad Yarn. It's called Confetti Cupcake. This one was also a special show colorway, and this one's a really light neutral. It was inspired by a picture of, I think it was of the bay or the beach or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It is called Tide Pool. Well, let's say it's inspired by a tide pool then. And then this one I got at a brand new yarn store called Coven of Stitches in Almeida. I think it's Almeida. Yeah. This is Seismic yarn. And I think that these might be blacklight reactive, but this is their like most popular colorway. And it is called Escape. So I had to get that one because it's so fun. This one is from Firebird Yarns, and it is actually their hand-dyed yarn. It was a mini skein that I got in a little, like it was a mystery bag thing they were doing for the crawl. So that was fun. And then this one I also got at Coven of Stitches. This is from Bay Farm Dye House, and it is called Hot Shot. Really, really fun colorway. That's it for California. We move on now to Arizona. So we went to Tempe Yarns and Fibers in Tempe, Arizona. I'll talk more about it later, but they have their own in-house dyed yarn, their own brand, and they have all these really fun bases. And this one was from their, was it 18th? I think it was like their 18th birthday anniversary or something, but it's called Chocolate Cake and Balloons. And it was the last skein they had in the store, so I had to grab it, and it has yak in it. It's really nice. And then these two are from Wool Market Fibers. This first one is called Mardi Gras Beads, and the second one is called Wool Market Fibers. Caught up. Now, what is the future of this blanket? Well, let's see. Last night, while in between, like while I was working on Hexies and not adding them in, I had this blanket on my legs. Like I had my legs straight out. It fit all the way to my toes, all the way up to like the crease of my hips. So it's not quite big enough yet. Like it's definitely not long enough, but it is starting to get wide enough. So I'm going to do another ring all the way around. When I do a ring all the way around, it adds, a hexie on the top and the bottom, a hexie side to side. So it makes it wider and taller, wider and taller by 2 hexies, and each hexie is about 5 inches. So that means it adds about 10 inches all the way around every single time. So after that, it might be wide enough, honestly. I'll have to see. I might still do another one. I don't know. But with each hexie round getting bigger and bigger, I think that I'm still going to be fine to just make one blanket, even though we have 25 states left to visit, because I do not have any plans to go to a big show or anything until August. So that's going to be flock. And I already have quite a bit of Washington yarn in my blanket. So I probably will restrain at that point. Probably, we'll see, from getting a bunch of yarns just for my blanket. I'm also, because I did so much shopping recently, I'm also kind of like, I think just one skein is cool. Like 1 to 2 skeins per state, I'm fine. I don't need that much more. So I think we're going to be cool. This next round of the blanket, I think, has 42 hexies, and that's a lot. So let's say I do even 3 per state. I mean, I'm getting a lot of states in. I'm not the greatest at multiplication or division, so I'm going to let you do the math on that, but I think that's a lot. I think that's quite a few states I can get through. So for now, I'm carrying on with one blanket. It is very warm, especially when I have it on me like this. This is nice, all bunched up. It's pretty dense and pretty thick. So I think it's going to be something I use a ton, and the memories that are going to be in it and having it all together in one blanket, to me, I think is just the perfect thing. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's podcast. Last year, I switched KnittyNatty.com over to Squarespace because I just love how easy their platform is to use. With just a few clicks, I was able to create my own website, and now I can just tweak things from there. Hands down, my favorite thing is the modular editing screen. You can just click and drag something into place, or just click right into a text box. You have no idea how much easier this is than learning code. You can even get started without any prior website experience by using one of Squarespace's many beautiful templates. Squarespace has a range of options, whether you're looking to sell digital or physical products like patterns, yarn, bags, or even create a membership space. Squarespace keeps things really simple by having their own place to purchase domains. So you can get something like .com or .net, or even create your own like .art. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/knittynatty to get 10% off your first website or domain. Now, back to the episode. Grab some coffee or project because we have so much to talk about this week for In Our Travels. Kent teased me last week because he was like, Natalie, you said this whole spiel about how we're not doing, a mini vlog or anything in the podcast anymore because we want to make it shorter and more digestible. And then you talk for 20 minutes. So there is so much just going on. There was so much last week. There's so much this week. We went to 3 national parks. I don't know how to consolidate it. So I'm going to do the best I can. But just in case you missed last week's episode, we are switching things back to more of a chatty In Our Travels segment because I want to make sure to reserve creative energy to do Tuesday videos again. So our goal is to start doing 3 videos a week on the weeks that we have a yarn store tour. So the yarn store tours will go up on Saturday. I want to do them live. So not live, premiere them so that they go live at one time and we can all watch them together and talk about the store and really support those stores. And then we'll go back to doing vlogs and tutorials and project planning and stuff for Tuesday videos. So that is the plan. Anyway, let's talk about this week. So on Tuesday, we started out in Arizona. So we spent a little bit of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday in Arizona, and then we drove into Utah, our 25th state, and spent the rest of the week here in Utah. So on Tuesday, we went to something called the Casa Grande Ruins. So there is these really old ruins that they have there. They don't know too much about what happened to the people that lived there. Like they were there and then they were gone. I don't know. It's really fascinating. But the ruins are so old. Sorry, I think I just got a hair or an alpaca strand in my mouth. The ruins are extremely old. Like I think in the 1000s? Is that how you would say that? I don't know. Kent read more about the history because, he's the one who does the booklet and gets the Junior Ranger thing and everything. Toaster and I just kind of walked around real quick and then we went back to the car and did a little bit of work while we had internet. But I did enjoy the ruins nonetheless. And then we ended that day with a nice walk in a park in Chandler, Arizona. Mostly that day was kind of a work day anyway, so nothing too super exciting on Tuesday. Wednesday, however, was a very fun day. So Wednesday was the day that we went to Tempe Yarns and Fiber in Tempe, Arizona. So we needed a yarn store tour in Arizona. We were here a couple of months ago. And when we were here a couple of months ago, we went to a few yarn stores in Tucson. And the stores were great. Don't get me wrong. They were so fantastic, but we just didn't have any plans for a yarn store tour yet. So we're like, okay, we need to figure out what to do. But while we were at those yarn stores in Tucson, I got a ton of messages from people asking if I was going to go to Tempe Yarns and Fibers. I'm like, what is that? And so we looked it up, and there was just so much enthusiasm for that store that we decided we've got to come back and go to Tempe Yarns and Fibers for our YouTube video. So we did, and it was great. Amanda, who manages the store there, is the daughter-in-law of the woman who started the store, of the couple who started the store, which I just think is so cool. And they have their own hand-dyed yarns. Anyway, it was just a beautiful day. So we started out an hour before the store opened filming at the store. And then the store opened at 10 and a bunch of people came in for one of their weekly sit and stitch. They have a big table for that. And we had more filming to do. So we continued that. And then around 11-ish, I think, I was able to sit down, chat with everybody and meet people. And that was a lot of fun. We stayed till 1 o'clock and then we had to get on the road. But it was a great time. Beautiful store. That store tour will be coming soon. I did want to show you a couple of yarns that I got from them that they gifted me. So I got the yarn for my blanket. But then they also surprised me when I was leaving and gifted me several yarns, and I won't be keeping all of these. Of course, I cannot possibly use them all, but I just thought they were so much fun and I want to show them off. So they have a lot of really cool and unique bases. So their yarn brand is called Delicious Yarn. So the woman who started the Tempe Yarns and Fibers, I didn't get to meet her, but she kind of retired the store or over to Amanda, who manages it now, and dyes yarn. And they have a ton of their own hand-dyed yarn. It's so awesome. So this is their Fiesta base, which has the really fun stripy elements in it. This colorway is called Happy Day. How fun is that? It's like bright orange and purple and pink. Really, really fun. And then this is their, what is it called? Their Desert Carefree base. They have a couple of blends with Tencel in there, which is I can't remember exactly what Tencel is, but it does make it a little nice for when you're living somewhere as hot as Arizona. They also have several bases that have more than 400 yards. So this one has 650 yards, and then they had another one that was 800 yards. This colorway is called 80s Flashback. That's really fun. So these larger skeins are kind of intended for, if you want to make a shawl or something, you don't have to have a spot where you join in a new yarn or have to worry about alternating yarns. It would also be good for, if you're making garments or something, you just have fewer places where you have to switch the yarn. And then this is their, this one I think also maybe has Tencel. I'm not sure actually. But this is their Saguaro colorway, which is the Saguaro cactus, which we love very much. It's if you think cactus, it's the Saguaro cactus. It's the one with the arms. So that's really fun. All of their yarns are also kind of named after things in Arizona. This is their Desert Garden base. So that is so fun. So thank you for those. And then the other thing is I got to meet Lindsay from Super Glow Yarns, who is also an Arizona-based dyer. She actually gave me a bunch of grapefruits from her grandparents' farm. I've already had one. It's really good. They're in the van. But then she gave me a couple of skeins of yarn, which I was not expecting. I have her yarn in my blanket already. Excuse me. Actually, I don't think it's far. Oh, it's right here. Hey, I can show you that too. This was her San Fran Disco colorway. So I actually got her yarn, even though she's from Arizona. I got it in California. But now I have some of her yarn that I got in Arizona that she gifted me. Looks like, does this say Scottsdale? Did I just read that somewhere? Hand dyed in Scottsdale, Arizona. So fun. So this is her DK base. It's called Glozy DK, I think. 100% superwash merino. This is Rain Glow. Oh, you really can't see these colors that well. Sorry. It's so pretty though. It's like a purple, really like gray bluey purple, and then fun pinks and speckles. And then this one is called Desert Bloom. How fun is that for Arizona? Really like that. So that was fun. So a lot of yarn came in. A lot of yarn came into the house here, but other than this bag of DK weight and other weight yarns, everything else fits in my overhead cubby. So anyway, Wednesday was a really fun day. So after Tempe Yarn, we started driving to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is where we ended up staying for the night. Okay, so that's kind of just setting us up for how long have I already been recording? Oh my gosh, 8 minutes, and I haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet. Okay, I'll try to go a little faster. Okay, on Thursday. Thursday was one of our bigger days of travel. We were heading to Page, Arizona, and then eventually on to Utah. So in the morning, got the van all ready, got our gassed up, cleaned the windows because we were going to see some beautiful drives today. We actually saw a little bit of snow. We were at, I think, 7,000 feet of elevation, and eventually we were going to get up to, yesterday, we got up to like 9,000 feet of elevation. My hands are dying. My cuticles are like separating from my fingernails. Don't worry, I have the cuticle oil. I just haven't put it on today yet. So I'm good. I just really have to stay on top of it. So we got up to 7,000 feet, saw snow, and then we started descending, and it was like desert already. Like, it's just crazy how the elevation change just completely changes the landscape here. It's so beautiful. It got super bumpy for a while. The road was really rough, and we saw some really awesome rock formations. So just the views alone, just driving place to place, have been gorgeous in northern Arizona. We kept seeing these signs for something called fry bread, and we were like, what is fry bread? Like, we passed several stands that kind of had, posters or signs made for fry bread. And then we kept seeing Navajo tacos, and we're like, okay, if we see another one, we're going to stop and we're going to try fry bread and Navajo tacos because we're hungry and we keep seeing them. So we finally did stop, and we got to try them, and they were great. So Kent got a like bean and cheese taco. I got a Navajo taco that had like lettuce and tomato and also beans and cheese and everything. They were both on fry bread, and then we got an additional fry bread with honey and butter on it. So fry bread is just like this doughy, like pretty oily bread that is quite delicious. Very, very good. And it was nice like talking to the person and kind of getting input on what to, get on our food and everything. So we stopped on the side at the stand and ate that before getting back on the road, which was really great. And then we continued on to Page, Arizona, where we were going to make a couple of stops. The first stop is Horseshoe Bend. So this entire area that we were in is called something. I actually forgot to write it down. Maybe Kent can put it on the screen here. It's run by the National Park Service, but it's like a massive area. So Horseshoe Bend is just one of those places. So it's cost $10 to park at Horseshoe Bend, but it was worth it. It was very, very cool. They were super sweet. They gave Toaster some treats as we came in. It's also a dog-friendly area to go to. So the trail is 1.5 miles. So in total, down to Horseshoe Bend and then back up. It was pretty easy on the way down. Back up, it was getting hot, and it was like we're going up, and we're like, all right, we should have like brought more water and everything, but it was all fine. Toaster was so excited that he got to go on this walk. So I took some video of him while we were in the parking lot before we actually got into like the park boundary. Excuse me. Before we could not take video anymore. And so it was really, really great. But like after we got back, we were so hot. Toaster was panting. And so for our next trail. We left him in the car with the air conditioning on. We then drove into Utah, which was great. Again, that's our 25th state, and it's a new state for me and for Toaster. Kent and I stopped at another trail called Toadstool Trail. Again, I think it was still part of this park area. We did a 1.6 mile trail, just the two of us. On the way out, we didn't see a soul. We're like, where are all these people that parked in this parking lot? Like, where are they? And then finally, we got out to like the main area, and there's all these like stacked rocks of different colors. I don't know. It's just really, really cool. And just a preview for what we were going to see in Utah in the national parks. After that, we drove to our sleeping spot. It was our first time staying on BLM land. So BLM land is Bureau of Land Management land, and it is free to stay on and camp on. And so basically we drove off the road and like down this path, and then there was just RVs and vans like ours and people, tents and everything everywhere. And it was a cool, very cool experience. Very nice to have somewhere free to park around others that feels safe, but also like out in nature. Only downside is there's no bathroom, which like having a very small space, and we do have a toilet, we do tend to rely on having a public restroom. So that was the only difficult part of that. Okay, so Friday we got up Kent got up really early. He drove us into Zion National Park at about 6 a.m. So it was still dark outside, and I stayed sleeping in the back. Thank you, Kent, while he drove us in. But the reason that he wanted to drive us in so early, even 2 hours prior to when the park opened, is because the parking lot for the visitor center fills up and there's not a lot of parking elsewhere. Most people park in town and take a shuttle in, and we didn't want to do that because we wanted to have easy access to Toaster to make sure he was safe, even though he's in the van, with air conditioning and everything. We have like things set in place. We have a camera, we have a temperature monitor, but those kinds of things don't work when there's no service. Like we aren't able to track it. So we wanted him to be nearby so we can check on him super often as we were doing hikes and all of that. Ended up being not a problem. He stayed nice and cool, but again, we don't want to be too far away from him or in a place where we don't have control over getting back to him. So it worked perfectly. Kent drove us in super early. We then woke up and like kind of did our morning routine in the van in the park. Once the visitor center and the shuttle buses to get around the park, because you also can't drive around Zion at certain times of year. During season, you can't drive around. You take a shuttle bus, which was actually quite fine. So we made sure to get on one of the first few buses. I think we got on the 8:30 bus and they started at 8 o'clock. So we took that out. We got off at the first stop to the Court of the Patriarchs, which was just a really short walk right up, see these rock formations, walk back down. That was very cool. My gosh, I keep seeing my own like hat in the like actual lens, and it's scaring me like somebody's walking up behind me. I don't know why. Okay, anyway. So we did that. Then while we were on the bus, I knitted a little bit. Kent was working on his Junior Ranger book. And then we got at another stop for the Riverside Walk. This was a 2-mile trail that was mostly paved, mostly flat. There was some parts where you kind of had to go like up and down or duck underneath something, but it was really beautiful. The extended part of this trail was closed because of flash flooding. So you got to a point at the end where the river actually went across the riverbed, but it doesn't always do that. Sometimes you can walk across the riverbed where it's dry to another part of the trail. So of course we didn't do that because it was covered in water. We turned around and came right back, and it was closed anyway. You weren't allowed to do so. So that was a really beautiful walk. We even got a picture together. A couple offered to take our picture. Then we went to the grotto. So this is where there's several trails here. We went off to the left, but off to the right is the infamous Angel's Landing. If you've heard of that hike or seen people do that, where they're like literally holding on to chains, walking across a rock, we did not do that. One, I don't think we have the stamina yet to do that one. And two, you have to have a permit and like a lot of time. And we're going to do that hopefully another time. So we went up the other way to Emerald Pools. This was also a 2-mile trail there, 2 miles, 1 mile there, 1 mile back. It has lots of stairs and lots of like slippery spots, but it was a very cool trail. So we were pretty exhausted at the end of this one because it was also warming up, but there was a lot of cool sights to see. And this one was crowded. Like there was a lot of people, kids. I mean, this park was getting busy at this point. So after that, we went back to the van. We had some lunch. We rested a little bit. Kent went and listened to a ranger talk. And then we grabbed Toaster and we just did a really quick 1 mile walk with him on a dog-friendly trail. We planned to do longer, but because we were so tired from the 4 miles we did in the morning, and it was starting to get hot, I think it was like 80 degrees and we had no shade on the trail we were at, we just turned around after half a mile, did another half mile, so a mile in total, and then went back to the van and drove to our next campground. As we were on our way to this campground, we saw in a town a sign for homemade pies, and I don't know why it says homemade pies. It's clearly a joke for them because their whole logo and everything, I don't know. It was funny. We were like, okay, you got our attention. Let's see what these pies are about. We got 2 pies, each got a slice of pie to go to eat later. I got strawberry and rhubarb pie, and Kent got chocolate, and they were fantastic. So that was Friday. How am I doing now? Oh my gosh, I'm talking for so long. Oh my gosh. I have one more day. Saturday, yesterday. Today is Sunday. Yesterday, we got up in the morning, not quite as early, and had a 1-hour drive to Bryce Canyon National Park. As we were driving in, you could just see all the red rocks that are also what Bryce is so famous for. But this was outside of the park. So I was able to get some video of the red rocks, like the landscape just changes. We also went through several very cool looking tunnels, which was a lot of fun. So once we were in Bryce, we started to do a couple of different viewpoints. This is a very drivable park, lots to drive around and see. So we stopped at a couple of viewpoints and then we drove all the way up to the top. The top is called Rainbow Point and the elevation is 9,115 feet, which is very, very high. We wanted to do a hike here. There was a 1 mile loop trail and we started out on it and then immediately it got to be actual snow. And we didn't know how deep it was until we went a little bit further out and we could see where people had stepped. And it was I don't know, maybe 1.5 to 2 feet deep. And we were like, I don't think we're prepared for this. We don't have the right gear. We can't see the trail. We should turn around. So we went as far as we could, farther than we probably should have. And then we turned around and we could still see the road. It wasn't like we were going to get lost or anything. We just weren't wearing the proper gear. So we turned around and came right back and got back in the car. On the way back down, so we'd gone all the way up to the top. On the way back down, we did a lot more of the pullouts and the viewpoints. I mean, there were so many cool things to see in Bryce. I think we kind of missed the opportunity to hike around the trails here because again, we didn't want to leave Toaster for too long. And most of these trails go from one viewpoint to the next. So they're not eventually they loop, but it's a really long one. It's not like you can go out and back in 2 miles and come back to your car, to your dog. So we didn't really do a lot of hiking here. We probably could have done more. It probably would have been even more enjoyable. I was getting a little worn down from getting in and out of the car. I don't know why, that just wears me down a lot. But we did see a lot of very cool things. We saw a natural arch, or they called it a natural bridge, but a natural arch that was really great. Super fun. All in all, it was very cool. I definitely preferred Zion to Bryce. I don't even know if they're really comparable because they are different. But as for me, if I'm recommending a park, I would say Zion over Bryce. Okay. Then we drove outside of the main area of the park. We were still in the park grounds, but it was a different area. And we did the Mossy Cave hike. This one was pretty short. Kent and I went. Dogs are not allowed for good reason. There was a lot of really difficult terrain to go on. Eventually we made it up and saw the cave, which was cool. Turned right back around, back to Toaster. We were ready to go get settled for the night. We started looking for a place to stay, again on BLM land. And the first place we tried, we scraped the bottom of our van, the gray tank, I think, underneath. So we were like, you know what? I don't think we can make it. It was a dirt road that had been clearly driven on when it was muddy. And so the middle was up higher, if that makes sense. And the tire tracks were down lower. So we're like, we cannot do this off-roading thing. Turned around, drove a little bit further and ended up in another place, in this place. And we're like, all right, this one looks great. I mean, I don't know if you can see their like big RVs behind me here. So from now on, we're looking for places that big rigs can go because Lydia cannot handle the off-roading. So once we were like, great, we have a place to park, we turned around and went back into the town of Escalante because we wanted to try out this place called Nemo's. It's a really cute stand and they have like burgers, fries, and milkshakes and everything. So that's what we wanted to do. So we got to sit outside for a little bit, enjoy the last bit of the sun, got a burger, and I got the really, really good sweet potato fries. And then we also each got a shake to take back with us. I got a huckleberry shake and Kent got, what was it called? Something, it was like chocolate, but it was like brownies over the moon or something like that. Anyway, we got that and we headed back here, got our spot, put the bed down, and then we ended up watching like 5 episodes of Fallout, the new Fallout series on Prime. Had our milkshakes. I finished crocheting my blanket. It was a great night and just a beautiful, beautiful spot to be in. So that's it. I don't know. Again, I've talked for over 20 minutes. Maybe not every week will be exactly like this, but I feel like there's just too much to share not to share it. So hopefully you enjoyed hearing a little bit about this week. And I'm very excited to do our Tuesday videos again. Actually, this past week, hopefully we got it filmed today, is our van tour finally. So very exciting stuff. Like I just said, this past week, we did a van tour. Finally. We filmed one when we first got the van because we thought we were going to do a van channel. We never ended up doing that. I don't think that's in the future for us. It's just a lot more work than we expected to travel and to drive and to do all of this. So we're really focusing on Knitty Natty right now, and we'll incorporate in travel as much as makes sense to still keep it a knitting channel, but incorporate some life. So here's the van tour. I hope you enjoy seeing everything and how we live in there. Plus, now that we've been in there since August, so a long time, 8 months, 9 months, I feel like we're better equipped to give you a tour and show you how we live in there. So that's what's happening this past week. And then coming up, I have a kind of a project planning video / pattern sharing video all about spring tops. So look out for that coming very soon. All right. The Muscle Bra hat is 20% off through May 2nd if you use my code, Knitty Natty 20. Thank you so much, Isolde and team, for giving me that. As you can see, I am a big fan of the Muscle Bra hat. Can highly recommend. Also, you can order the May Woolen Women Fibers box through April 21st. That is the Camelot themed box. I shared it a couple podcast episodes back. Since then, I have used the lanolin wool wash and the little tray that you get, and oh my gosh, smells so good. Here are a few events that are coming up. The New Jersey Wool Walk is this weekend, April 17th through the 21st in New Jersey. I actually have a video on that one from several years ago. It's a great yarn crawl. The North Texas Yarn Crawl is coming up April 19th through the 28th, so also starting this weekend, but continuing beyond that. Yarn Centric is coming up in Frederick, Maryland, May 2nd through the 3rd. That's also the same weekend of Maryland Sheep and Wool. I will not be there. I am technically a sponsor of Yarn Centric because I have just loved working with them, the coordinators of that and everything, but I cannot make it this year. We will be at a wedding in Texas, so there's just no possible way, but hope to be there in 2025. The Pacific Northwest Yarn Crawl 2024 is happening in Washington, May 2nd through the 5th. There is another one in Washington called the Puget Sound Local Yarn Store Tour, May 15th through the 19th. So if you're in Washington, you have lots of opportunities to go to lots of yarn stores. And then lastly, the Utah Yarn Crawl, found that through looking up different things about Utah, is happening July 13th through the 20th. So quite a ways away, but still coming up nonetheless. All right, that is everything for this week's podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.